time that we made a difference on the environment. We waited all these years for the province or Canada to try to save what's ever left of the earth. They're not doing it, so we have to do it on our own. So that's why we're here today. I can thank you.
So try to help, Martin. So now we're going to have the declaration. It's going to be read out in our language and followed by the water declaration read out in English.
The declaration of Yinkatane and Satne. Sucho Zatni. When you so that you in the Yinkatane in the Sucho Zatni. The Yana Itson. There's an Abakane Satikane Utson. That's what ends of what's on. Say Abakane. I try to go on. Because I'm the afternoon. Nega horse should guide. Because at then now, I hold the guide. The young dark is what's in when it has means and let's set me. Young gotcha, connect cha. And isn't it some cha? Then now the nets in nature. You got to tell you what's on two was tell about Hunda. Say I suck two gafana, young cha, kanaicha. Vegestisha, incarnate yesha, incarnature. Benene tu bene et ene, and it's a batlats connect, and as a patent. Anti nasty, the younger at ene and test get here. There was your horse spectacle for Hunda. Because our arts at the edge and no honey.
So Charlie, George. And then I would like to invite Zhen, D-Z-I-H, space, capital B-H-E-N, Tanis Reynolds.
Water Declaration of the Yinka Dene Azapne. We, the first people of this land, therefore declare that our rights, including our title and our legal responsibilities, were given to us by our ancestors and cannot be altered or taken away by any other nation or state. We will forever maintain our freedom of self-determination of our language and our spiritual beliefs and our culture. We will forever fulfill and maintain our rights and obligations to protect our water and everything that water touches and gives life to, including the land, animals, air, plants, and humankind. We forbid any future development in our territories without our consent. Whoever wishes to work with our water must abide by our traditional governance system called the Bathlats. We will require outside users to respect our laws and rights in the use of our water. We are not, in principle, opposed to economic development in our traditional territories, but all such development must be done in a way that protects our rights and obligations of Nadleh and Stella to protect our sacred too. Nadleh and Stella must also fully benefit from all economic development in our territories. We will strive to develop the best ways to fulfill the management and protection obligations of Nadleh and Stella, and we will require outside users of water in our territories to respect our laws in this regard. It is in this spirit that we have enacted the Yinka Dene Azatne Surface Water Management Policy and the Yinka Dene Azatne Guide to surface water quality standards.
Thank you, Tanis. Well, our Zatne has spoken. They are compiled of our Bathlats table, which is 5 clans. And I would like to invite Grand Chief Sir Phil to say some remarks on it.
Waihaskal, Isnaxil, Esquis, Asiut. As is our custom, I also would like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam. And I want to say it's a great honor to have the Nadleh people in our boardroom. Without question, this is a significant moment in the history of our peoples in the province of British Columbia. And I take great pride in stating that it was this boardroom, it was this board table where we sat around when the Chilcotin decision was handed down by the Supreme Court of Canada. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. All of the Chilcotin leadership was around this table. There was a lot of lawyers in the room and so on and so forth. And we watched that decision move up the screen of everyone's laptop. And I was very calm because I was absolutely convinced it was going to go against us. And I was absolutely shocked when we won that absolute landmark in every sense of the word Supreme Court decision that simply reiterated what our elders, what our ancestors have said for the last 150 years or so, that the indigenous peoples of this province own their territories and have full jurisdiction and authority over the utilization of our territorial lands for the well-being of the indigenous peoples of that particular territory. And the Chilcotin decision said very clearly that indigenous land rights, that Aboriginal title is territorial wide in scope. It totally rejected the colonial notions that our title interests were restricted to small spots and fishing stations and so on and so forth. It rejected once and for all this notion of terra nullius, whereby the colonial powers had this very racist notion that these were empty lands and that we were savages and we were somehow incapable of establishing tribal law and governance over our lands and territories. So it set the stage for what we have here today. And I'm absolutely thrilled that Nadleh has put pen to paper and committed their ancient laws of governance over their territory in a form that can be understood by the neo-colonial government structures such as the province of British Columbia and the government of Canada. And clearly what's in this document is a reflection of traditional ecological knowledge, knowledge derived from our knowledge keepers, our traditional people, the people that actually go out and utilize the land in a very traditional way. This law is based on science and certainly is far more comprehensive and far more beneficial to the well-being of the land than the the very anemic, deficient laws that have been advanced by the province of British Columbia over the last 100 or so years. The legislative regime of the province of British Columbia is very archaic. A lot of the fundamental laws of this province in terms of of land and resources find their foundation during the creation of the province of British Columbia, mining and so on and so forth. And this law here is a reflection of where we're at now. We just came through a long, dark night, a decade, a dark decade of the Harper regime where they deconstructed all environmental oversight legislation through omnibus legislation, completely gutted environmental oversight, removed habitat protection from the Fisheries Act, removed federal responsibility from all lakes, rivers, and streams throughout the entire country. The province's efforts have been equally deficient in terms of the so-called Water Sustainability Act. It was a very lackluster, dismal exercise in drive-by consultation, whereby you were given a 1-800 number to call in and speak to what they were proposing. They were able to move that law forward as a consequence of having a majority. And we take issue with the so-called Water Sustainability Act. It does more to facilitate more of the same in terms of the industrial degradation of our lands through mining, heavy oil pipeline proposals, and all other kinds of industrial development such as the Site C Dam. And there's no accountability. And now we have a law here on the table that makes governments and industry accountable to the indigenous peoples on whose territory this law applies, as it was in the beginning. And so in many ways we've come full circle here, and the Nadleh people are reclaiming their authority and their jurisdiction and their responsibility over their lands and waters. So it's indeed a historic step, and I anticipate that other tribal groups throughout the province of British Columbia will follow suit. In the aftermath of the Mount Holly mining disaster, the Williams Lake Indian Band and Hatsol or Soda Creek brought forward their own mining policy. Again, if you can't rely on the integrity and the sense of responsibility, social responsibility, environmental responsibility on the part of the government of Canada or the province of British Columbia, then Indigenous peoples will turn to the courts, and we will turn to our own tribal laws, and we will turn to our teachings that are very clear that we must honor the land and honor the people, and that's what we have here today. So this is indeed a significant development, and as we move forward, particularly moving toward another provincial election in about a year's time, the significance of this document is going to loom very large. And it should serve as a wake-up call to Premier Clark that these half-baked efforts, this nickel and dime approach of the Clark government with respect to Aboriginal policy has been an absolute complete failure, or there would be no need for Indigenous peoples to undertake the responsibility that the provincial government refuses to know and understand that they are accountable for the environmental future of this province. And yet they continue to pander to large-scale resource development and big industry and so on and so forth. So I just want to say in closing that as I always do, it's about the future. It's about the future of our children and grandchildren, and I've been blessed with 15 grandchildren. So when I drive home later today, up through the Fraser Valley, through the Hope Princeton, into the Okanagan, into the Smelkameen and Okanagan valleys, I'll be thinking about this document and what it represents. And I'm greatly encouraged, and I'm absolutely grateful to the visionary leadership of Nadleh for doing the work of putting this document together, and on behalf of my grandchildren, I want to thank you for this work.
Thank you, Chief Mr. Philip. You have really eloquent words, and it is, you are right, it is for our grandchildren, everyone. That includes native and non-natives, because water is so precious. I would like to invite Nadleh Frog Clan representative to say a few words.
I'm gonna stand right behind my brother when I speak because I'm his boss. We're the boss, and not as that we're the caretakers of our land. My name is Nadleh Frog. I come from a long line of Azatne on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side. My parents are Nisnan and Tihoan. My grandparents are Wihala and Hasien. On my dad's side, my grandma is Nismadi. My grandpa is Tamu. Ever since I was little growing up, my grandparents, my mom and my dad and all the elders from Nadleh within, they're preparing us for how to be an Azat person, how to take care of our land, our water, and the air that we breathe. It's our medicine and our food that we eat. Everything depends on our land and our water. That's how we were brought up as Azatne. I often think about my mom. She's passed on. She told us we're going to go down to Yatuba. I would say this in my language, but I was at the residential school and I can understand my language, but I cannot speak it. But one day, God willing, I will speak my language again. My mom said, we're going to go to Yatuba, and then we know it's Vancouver, we know it's the ocean that we're going to come to. She said, there's something really, really huge that's going to happen. My brother and I talked about it when we were invited to the 2010 Olympics here in Vancouver. Then we thought, well, that was the big occasion. But today, when I think back and I talked to my brother about it, she was speaking of today, the true declaration that we're doing today, that's what she spoke about. My grandpa, the chief for Nadleh within, he said, we were here before, our parents, our grandparents were here before. We had no contact with anyone, but they knew the Lord, they knew God, and they had their laws through the Bashats of how to take care of the land, the air, and the water. He always told us, each and every one of us, do not forget, this is your land, your water, and the air you breathe, and you have to take care of it. And I used to think, my goodness, what's that going to do with me? In summer times, we'd go to Chuslo, Ormond Lake. My grandpa and my grandma would take us there as little ones. And we did that every summer, no matter what, as long as my granny and grandpa were able to be on the land. Until they got older, we did not go back. There was other people caring for the land in our territory. That's how we were brought up as a Zatne. Love and respect each other, my grandpa said. We welcome the non-natives into our territory. We help them through their sickness. We help them have the food they need to eat when they were hungry. And Grandpa always said, do not say that they own the land, we were here first. He tells us that all the time, and then So I know this is why we are here today. Our grandparents, our parents taught us this. My respected elder, Mary John Sr., she said, Rose, I'm going to gift you with these moccasins that I'm wearing today. She said, you're only going to wear it on a very special occasion. So I wore these moccasins at 2010 Olympics when we were singing and dancing for. So that's what I wore this. Mary John gifted me the moccasins, and then I thought, I need to give her a gift in payment for that, and she said no. And today is the second time I'm wearing those moccasins. My grandpa and my grandma said, never forget who you are and where you come from. The late Sophie Thomas, she was our medicine lady from our territory. She's the medicine woman, we call her. She tells us to take care of the Mother Earth, and she will take care of you in return. With that, I want to thank you for listening to me. God bless each and every one of you for being here today. For all my other clan members, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you to my brother for being so stubborn and wanting to do this. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everyone. God bless everybody.
So after you sign, we'll, land test and you'll be able to sign. I would like to ask, Plantes and Nishman, sorry. Would you, Violet Kennedy, would you say a few words?
Abby?
My traditional name is Dante Snack, and that name is handed down from my grandmother on my mom's side, adopted grandmother. I had questions of what my cousin say. When you get your native traditional name, it's a disciplinary action responsibility that is taken up by you when you're ready. You say, okay, I'll take that name. Funny thing came, my older sister who has had the name herself for quite a while, driving her back to Prince George, and she asked me, Sister Violet, are you ready to take that name, that grandma's name, Dante Snack? And I told her, and I looked at her directly. I said, Irene, if Grandma Jeannie Cho does not want me to take this name, all what I prepared with my daughter will not go through. So that's kind of a family tree that my cousins were related. But one thing I'm sorry, I just wanted to thank the grandmothers, our ancestors, for departing wisdom to each and every one of us who have taken the time to take to heart what they've imparted to us. Our ancestors, from time immemorial, were the scientists, were the environmentalists, were the caretakers over the territory that we live in. It has always been installed to us. What you take from the land we say prayers of thanksgiving to the Creator. We say thank you. That is going to stay with me till the time I go back and turn to dust myself. Now I'd like to take the time, my efforts, to share and to encourage and promote the things that we were taught. My grandson is here. With them, we're always told that there are future leaders. Well, let us remember how we will take care of them, the same way that we will take care of Mother Earth. She provides everything that comes that we eat. Without water, who in this room will survive? Who in this room will survive without the medicine that goes out in the forest? Respect was always instilled in us. Take care of one another, no matter where you come from. Take care. Above all, encourage the young people and talk to them about where you come from, what you have received, and what you will leave behind. And I'd just like to say in closing, Martin, I really applaud your courage. I wouldn't say stubbornness. Your courage to move forward and not to give up, and not to kind of let the government and the other major companies try to dissuade you for the things that you work for and what you believe in. Thank you. And for all who is in here, I hope and pray that all these things that we have will be shared, not only through prayers, but the way that our ancestors have taught and left behind. Respect when you go out to the ocean. You respect all these things. And thank you so much, Stuart Phillip. Known you for a long time. Continue, each one of you. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. If you have a dealing with the government, do not back up. Grandparents are right behind you. Our ancestors are behind you. Always call on me. Be with me. Be with me. So thank you for this